Hey guys, how's it going? Man, it has been a while, hasn't it? As you can see, I have an unbelievably large amount of stuff we've got to catch up on with our reviews. It's been crazy. I've got all kinds of stuff going on. It's gardening season. It's like almost 1st of June. So anyway, it's a rainy Memorial Day, and I figured I'd just get some videos done and try and get caught up and give a little information out. So once again, my channel is Mojo Redneck Review, and my email, if you want to email me there, is mojoredneckreview@gmail.com. Someday I'm going to learn to put those fancy graphics down there at the bottom of these things. So, but until then, I use the old-fashioned method. Okay, so the first thing today is canning. I'm not going to talk about guns today. I've done a couple on that. Rough first videos, but and this one's probably going to be rough too. But a little bit of information for you with it being gardening season. It's so important to sort of preserve our stuff out of the gardens. And not only that, for us SHTF guys, we always want to know what the best preservation methods are. I'm by no means an expert. I've been doing canning for a long time. And I do a lot of other things, Mylar bags, drying, etc. And I think I've sort of come up with a formula that I really stick by now. And the first thing I want to talk about is probably the #1 way I preserve food, and that is by canning. Gosh, I think it was the first 1800s or something that it came about. Little process where you basically pressure cook food in a jar and gets it to about 250 degrees, kills the botulisms, the bad stuff in there, and then preserves it for forever. I mean, I've got meat that I have canned and we eat it. It's 13 years old and it tastes like the day I did it. I mean, it's just fantastic way to preserve food. I do a lot of other stuff. I do drying and stuff, but that'll come later. I wanted to talk today a little bit. This is the first episode on canning, and the first thing I really want to talk about is the old canning jar. Probably one of the best food preservation vessels there are. Yeah, I know some people will compare it with the old Mylar bag, but it's hard to preserve a chicken breast in a Mylar bag. But I'm going to show you how to preserve some stuff with that. And I do use Mylar bags, but this is a miracle of modern food preservation. You've seen them all. This is a wide mouth. They make small mouths. There's a little bit of price difference. Not a lot. A few dollars. It's got nowhere for the difference. I usually buy the wide mouth. There's a number of different manufacturers. Ball is probably the brand name most people use. There's Harvest. That's like a Walmart brand. So I use all of them. I really have never had a problem out of any of them. Some people will tell you the cheaper ones crack, which I haven't had a problem with. I will tell you, if you're reusing them over and over, always make sure to check the rim of the jar for cracks, because this little lid right here uses this rubber seal to seal against that. So if there are cracks, then it is easy for it to allow air in, and that's when bad things get in here and bad things happen. So people say, well, you know, I don't know, you know, some of that stuff looks pretty grody when I can it, and you know, sometimes after it sits for a while it looks pretty bad. Well, guys, I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes food doesn't look great when it's preserved, but it's the same and better than canning in a metal jar, in a metal can. So actually, glass jars will last much longer than metal cans. Metal cans, especially in modern day society, cans have a tendency to rust in the seam. So if the shelf date on it is 2017, you can let it go for a couple of years. And I've had pretty good success with going many years past the date. But pretty soon they start to rust out. Like I said, with jars, 13 plus years, no problem. Keep them in a cool, dry place. That's one thing you don't want to have happen, is you do not want your jars to sit where it turns hot or it freezes. Freezes is the death knell for these things. Yeah, the one disadvantage is glass, bang, it happens. Trust me, it happens. So that it does break, but that's a minor disadvantage. So what do I use these for now? Let me show you something. Okay, so really two things I use it for. Number one, canning meats. That's chicken. Actually, I just canned that February of this year. So that's chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken breast. Canned it. Meat is very easy to can, probably easier than vegetables, to tell you the truth. Basically 90 minutes, cold pack process. I put them in here raw. And put your broth in. I'll probably do another video on details, and then put them in at 12 pounds in the foothills, North Carolina. 12 pounds at 90 minutes. You need to look that up on the internet or in your extension office. They can tell you, and that makes a lot of difference because the poundage is what increases your temperature in the cooker, and that's the secret to making this safe. So if you get your temperature and poundage right, no problem. If you mess up doing that, sometimes you don't get all the bad bugs out, and that's when you go bad. So make sure to pay attention to that. Other than that, thoroughly safe, easy to do. Don't make it sound like it's too complex. So anyway, I can do it, you can do it. So canned meats, number one. Number two, I do still occasionally do canned vegetables. Like, there's nothing beats a good can of green beans, a good jar of home canned green beans. Nothing on God's green earth is better than that. But it takes up a lot of room for what it is. If I want something for taste, yeah, I'll can me 2-3 cases of green beans. Now what I do for SHTF purposes and for getting away trying to store away the most product that I possibly can, I use an Excalibur dryer, and I dry all of my vegetable products, and then I put them in jars, and I have an attachment, and I'll do this in a later video, that basically vacuum seals this lid down on the dried products. So in all actuality, that jar will be good for 15, 20 plus years. Keep them stored in a cool, dry place. Once again, try and keep the light away from them. I put mine in brown paper bags, just a regular lunch bag or something, and then stick it in the case. Believe it or not, one of the reasons I do it that way instead of canning, in the juice method, like canned green beans, is that right there is right at about 8 pounds of frozen corn, beans, and peas, I think, or carrots. About 8 pounds. This would, if I were canning this in the traditional wet method, with the broth and stuff in there, you're probably looking at probably at least 6 quarts. You'd take probably 6 quarts, if not more, to get what I've got in here. Now, the one thing about that on the SHTF side of things, and people ask me, what's that mean? It's like, well, S means doo-doo, so it's like doo-doo hits the fan. It's a prepper term, and it's for survival, and you want to try to be as economical as possible with your space for that. So in those situations, there's nothing that beats this. One thing you do have to make sure is if you do all this drying, which I have cases and cases, tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of cases of this, hundreds of jars. You got to make sure you've got good water and a good water source. Otherwise, you're gonna be eating dehydrated food, which is not the best thing for you. But well, maybe it is. My daughter, my youngest daughter, loves when I do sweet corn when I dehydrate it, and I'll fill up a jar of 8 pounds of dehydrated sweet corn and put the lid on it, and within a week it's gone. It's like candy. It's super sweet. So anyway, so on the jars, that's the 2 ways I use canning jars. Wonderful things. I'm going to try and do these in segments, so that's sort of my overview on this. Like I said, I use a pressure canner. I'm going to do a video on that. I do have a particular preference of the pressure canners. Won't turn back. I love American canners. I'll talk about that in a later video. Like I said, the one thing is for canning, don't be scared of it. Sometimes on the internet it makes it seem like it's a crazy kind of ordeal, and it's like some mad scientist. It's really not. It's probably one of the easiest things you can do. In fact, it's probably one of the most fun things I do. I love doing it. It helps if you can do a lot at one time. So, for example, if you're canning chicken breast, go and get 20 pounds of chicken breast, get you a case of jars, and go to it. spend you several hours canning. Let's see here. I think that's about it. Like I said, best way to preserve food. Oh, one other thing. There are some newfangled lids out there that they have come out with that you don't really pressure can. It's a way to seal this jar. It's a plastic lid that goes on here and it seals the jar, but it's not for canning. And I've seen a lot of people talking about how they made the mistake. They thought it was for canning. The only way that you can can in a pressure canner is a genuine glass jar, a genuine good quality top, and the ring. I don't reuse the tops. I reuse jars. You know, when you're canning, the ring holds the lid on till the pressure's achieved, and you hear that wonderful little. Let's see if I can get it to do it. You hear that wonderful little thing. That means that pressure's on it. I don't reuse lids. Some people have, but I feel like it. Over time, that seal degrades. And besides, the easiest way to open a thing of canned food is take your knife and pop it right off. So, looks like I'm running down on my time on this video, and I think I've given enough general information. I hope you take time to watch my other videos on canning. It's, like I said, it's an awesome hobby, awesome way to preserve food. Can't say enough about it. Been around for hundreds of years. Take the chance this year, do it. Invest in a little equipment, and you will be canning your heart out and saving a lot of money compared to canned food. So once again, Mojo Redneck Review at gmail.com and Mojo Redneck Review channel. So anyway, like me, click like, send the link out, do whatever interweb stuff you got to do to get me distributed out there to spread the word. And as always, I'm signing off with my new GoPro. So GoPro, stop recording.